If you're over 60, I want to ask you something that might sound simple at first. Have your legs been feeling off lately? Maybe they get tired faster than they used to. Maybe that short walk you used to breeze through now feels like climbing a hill. Maybe you've been blaming age or thinking it's just your joints acting up. But what if I told you the problem might be sitting quietly, right there in your fruit bowl? Welcome, my friend, to another episode of the Senior Health Podcast. I'm Dr. Grant, and today we're peeling back the layers on something most people never question: fruit. Yes, fruit. The very thing we've been told our entire lives is the epitome of health. The thing we proudly put on our breakfast plates, offer our grandkids, or snack on instead of cookies. Fruit sweet, juicy, natural, guilt-free, or so we thought. But here's a truth that needs to be said, especially after 60. Some fruits, especially the ones marketed as light, heart, friendly, or clean, may not be doing your body any favors anymore. In fact, they could be quietly draining the strength right out of your legs, not all at once, not in a way that triggers alarm, but slowly, steadily. They can disrupt your blood flow, spike inflammation, and make simple daily movement feel like a chore. And I get it, it sounds strange. How could something as wholesome as a bunch of grapes or a slice of watermelon possibly weaken your legs? It's not like we're talking about soda or deep-fried junk. But that's exactly the problem. Because these fruits appear innocent, no one questions them, and that's where the danger hides. The issue is not about whether fruit is good or bad. It's about how your body, especially an aging body, reacts to it. To help us unpack this surprising reality, I'm honored to welcome back a man who is living proof of vibrant aging. Dr. Shigeaki Hinohara, Japan's oldest practicing physician. He's over 100 years old, still walks with ease, still lectures with clarity, and still cares deeply about teaching others how to age well, especially when it comes to habits we've never been taught to question. Dr. Hinohara has spent decades observing how food affects function, not just in hospitals but in everyday life. And today, he's here to help us understand why some fruits, even those labeled healthy, might be sabotaging the very limbs that carry your freedom, your independence, your mobility. Let me share what struck me most when we first talked. Dr. Hinohara said, "People believe weakness comes from aging, but often it comes from what we keep eating without adjustment." That line hit me hard. Because, let's face it, often do we actually revisit what's on our plates after retirement? Most people assume their digestion is slowing, their energy's down, or their balance is slipping simply because of age. But they don't realize that certain foods, especially certain fruits, might be quietly fueling those struggles. Now, this isn't about blaming you or shaming your choices. If anything, it's about liberation. Because once you understand how certain fruits behave inside an aging body, you gain power. You gain clarity. You gain the chance to choose better, not stricter, not joyless, but smarter. And that, my friend, is how we age with intention, not just instinct. In this episode, we're going to walk through 7 fruits you may want to rethink after 60. Fruits that may look harmless but interfere with circulation, muscle recovery, and energy stability. We'll explain exactly how they affect the body, why it matters more after 60, and most importantly, what to eat instead. This isn't about cutting out sweetness from your life. It's about shifting from autopilot to awareness, from tradition to transformation, and most importantly, from passive decline to active strength. Because aging is not the enemy, confusion is. And today, we're cutting through that confusion. So grab a seat, take a breath, and let's begin with the fruit that shocked me the most. One that's in almost every household, often eaten by the handful, and quietly affecting the very blood vessels that feed your legs. Let's talk about grapes. Let's start with the first fruit that Dr. Hinohara believes deserves a second look: grapes. Now, I know. Grapes are sweet. They're small. They seem light. A handful feels like a better choice than cookies or chips. But here's what most people never consider. Grapes are extremely high in fructose, and fructose behaves differently in the body compared to other sugars. Unlike glucose, which your muscles can use directly for fuel, fructose bypasses your bloodstream and heads straight to the liver. And if you're over 60, your liver isn't working as efficiently as it did when you were 40. It's just a natural part of aging. But here's where it becomes a problem. When that liver gets overwhelmed with fructose, it starts producing excess uric acid. And uric acid, in turn, blocks nitric oxide, a key compound your blood vessels need to relax and expand. Without enough nitric oxide, your blood vessels narrow. That means your legs, those muscles that carry your groceries, climb stairs, get you to the mailbox, start receiving less blood, less oxygen, and fewer nutrients. It's like trying to water a garden with a kinked hose. The plants don't die, but they don't grow either. That's what happens inside your legs. They don't give out suddenly. They just stop thriving. You start feeling stiff, heavy, sluggish. And no one blames the grapes. What's worse, grapes don't trigger satiety. You don't feel full after a handful. So it's easy, especially for someone trying to eat light, to go through an entire bowl in a day without realizing that they've overloaded their vascular system. And in traditional Japanese medicine, as Dr. Hinohara points out, the key isn't labeling food as good or bad, it's understanding how it behaves inside your body. And grapes, though natural, behave like fast fuel, sweet, volatile, and directionless. That's not what aging muscles need. I can't tell you how many patients I've seen who eat grapes religiously, thinking it's the perfect snack, only to complain about heavy legs, slow recovery after walks, or feeling foggy in the afternoons. And they never connect the dots, because grapes seem so harmless. Now let's talk about the second fruit, bananas. This one surprised me even more, because bananas have long been seen as a gentle food easy to digest, full of potassium, even recommended by doctors after surgery. And yes, potassium supports muscle function. But here's what we don't talk about enough. Bananas are also high in simple carbohydrates. And when you're over 60 and your insulin sensitivity has likely declined, that sugar hits harder. A 2016 study from the journal Nutrients found that even medium glycemic fruits like bananas cause significant blood sugar spikes in older adults with impaired glucose tolerance. And those spikes, my friend, don't just raise your sugar, they damage your microvasculature. That's the tiny network of blood vessels in your legs and feet. They take the first hit. The more they're strained, the less oxygen and nutrients they can deliver. Over time, the legs don't just feel tired, they become inflamed, sore, prone to injury. Here's a scenario I see far too often. A senior wakes up, grabs a banana and a piece of toast, maybe with coffee. That's a breakfast high in sugar and starch, with almost no protein or fat to slow digestion. So blood sugar spikes fast. Insulin follows. Then comes the crash. And by mid-morning, they feel shaky, foggy, or just off. They think it's age, but it's biology under strain. In traditional Japanese practice, bananas were rarely eaten alone. They'd be paired with fermented dairy or nuts, something to buffer the sugar. But here, in the West, we've created this myth of the quick, healthy snack. And for a 65-year-old with borderline blood sugar and slowing metabolism, it can do more harm than good. Again, we're not demonizing the banana. We're inviting you to see it in context. How it's eaten, when it's eaten, and what it's eaten with. Because your body after 60 is not the same machine it was before. It needs stability, not spikes. It needs nourishment that lasts, not energy that crashes. And your legs, the very foundation of your independence, feel those shifts first. So, if you've been reaching for grapes or bananas, thinking they're doing you good, just pause and ask yourself, how do I feel afterward? Do my legs feel light? Do I feel steady? Or am I just chasing energy, only to feel drained 2 hours later? That's your body talking. And it's time we started listening. Let's keep going, because the next two fruits we need to talk about are often seen as symbols of freshness and vitality: pineapple and watermelon. Bright, tropical, juicy. They appear in smoothies, fruit salads, and summer barbecues. But after 60, these two sweet friends can turn into metabolic troublemakers, especially for your legs. Let's start with pineapple. Now, to be fair, pineapple does have one notable benefit: bromelain. It's an enzyme known for its anti-inflammatory properties. Sounds good, right? But here's the thing: when we talk about food, we need to look at the whole picture, not just one compound. And the whole pineapple is more than bromelain. It's extremely high in fructose and acidic compounds. And for aging blood vessels and gut lining, that combination can be problematic. As we age, the inner lining of our blood vessels, the endothelium, becomes more fragile. It's more susceptible to inflammation and oxidative stress. When you combine high fructose sugar with acid, as in pineapple, you're essentially irritating both the vascular and digestive systems at the same time. That's not something a younger body would notice. But after 60, it shows up in ways most people never connect to fruit. One of the most common signs? Low-grade edema. That's when your legs start to retain fluid, not dramatically, not like a swollen injury, but subtly, a feeling of puffiness, tightness around the calves or ankles by afternoon, and people think, oh, I've just been on my feet, or maybe I didn't drink enough water. But what they miss is the dietary trigger. And pineapple, with its sugar-acid duo, can quietly fuel that retention. Here's what happens. The sugar inflames the endothelial cells, reducing their ability to regulate fluid. The acid, meanwhile, irritates the gut lining, which then affects nutrient absorption. And when your body can't absorb nutrients efficiently, it panics. It holds onto water. That swelling, in turn, impairs oxygen delivery to your leg muscles, which means slower recovery after walking, more soreness, and that frustrating feeling of being tired in your legs for no clear reason. And studies back this up. A 2019 study in Clinical Interventions in Aging found that even mild lower limb fluid retention in older adults was associated with reduced walking speed, slower chair rise time, and get these, a higher risk of falls. And for many of those participants, the trigger wasn't a disease. It was diet-driven inflammation, which means it's preventable. Now let's shift to watermelon. It feels like the safest fruit of all, doesn't it? It's mostly water. It's soft. It's easy to chew. How could that possibly be a problem? Well, the answer lies in the glycemic index. Watermelon is extremely high on that scale, meaning it's absorbed into your bloodstream rapidly, almost instantly. For a younger person, that sugar rush gets absorbed and managed. But for a senior, especially someone with impaired glucose control, that spike is followed by a sharp crash. And crashes in blood sugar don't just leave you tired, they leave your muscles underfed. Here's what most people don't realize. Your legs aren't just mechanical, they're metabolic. They require a steady flow of nutrients to recover from daily activity. Every step you take creates micro tears in your muscle fibers. Normally, your body repairs them overnight. But if those muscles don't get the nutrients they need because the sugar burned through fast and nothing followed, it's like trying to patch a roof with no supplies. And watermelon? It gives you hydration, but not much else. It lacks fiber, protein, and fat. That means it doesn't support satiety or muscle rebuilding. It's fast in, fast out. Even more concerning, overconsumption of watermelon can dilute your electrolytes. Magnesium and potassium are especially vulnerable. And when they drop, guess what happens? Leg cramps. restless legs at night, twitching or discomfort. That makes sleep elusive. And again, people don't blame the fruit. They blame aging. But this is why awareness matters. A study from the Journal of Nutrition, Health, and Aging found that muscle cramping in seniors was often linked not just to dehydration, but to low micronutrient density, especially in diets high in watery fruits and low in mineral-rich foods. So what's the takeaway here? It's not that you can never enjoy pineapple or watermelon again. It's that you need to pair them wisely. Don't eat them alone. Don't make them your breakfast or snack without backup. Add something dense. A boiled egg, a spoon of yogurt, a handful of sesame seeds, something to anchor the sugar and support recovery. Because hydration without mineral support is incomplete. Sweetness without balance is a trap. And legs that carry your freedom deserve more than a sugar rush. They deserve sustainable nourishment. Let's talk now about two of the sneakiest culprits in many senior diets: dried fruit and fruit juice. Both often show up in health food aisles. Both are packaged with words like natural, heart smart, or all fruit. And both can quietly overload your system, especially if you're over 60. Let's begin with dried fruit. I'm talking about raisins, dates, dried mango, even those so-called superfood trail mixes. These little bites may look innocent, but they pack a sugar punch that's far denser than fresh fruit. You see, when fruit is dried, the water disappears, but the sugar remains. Concentrated, compact, easy to overconsume. Here's the reality. A quarter cup of raisins has more sugar than a can of soda. But because it's just fruit, we don't think twice. You might pop a few into your oatmeal, a few more in the afternoon, a few before bed. But your bloodstream sees none of the fiber, none of the water, none of the slowing agents that nature built into the original fruit. It just sees a sugar surge. And for seniors, especially those with weakened capillaries or borderline glucose tolerance, that surge hits hard. What does that sugar spike do? It damages the endothelium, the delicate lining of your blood vessels. And once that lining is inflamed, it can't transport oxygen or nutrients efficiently. Which part of the body feels that first? The periphery, your legs, your feet, your toes. And the effect? Slower recovery, more fatigue, a feeling of instability or heaviness that builds across the day. Even worse, dried fruit doesn't trigger fullness. It's easy to eat, especially for someone looking for a healthy snack. But the body doesn't care if the sugar came from a candy bar or a dried apricot. It reacts the same way. After 60, our margin for sugar tolerance narrows. And dried fruit, though natural, is too dense, too fast, too easy to overeat. Now, let's move to the next trap. Fruit juice. And yes, even fresh squeezed orange juice counts. This one hits hard because juice has such a clean, wholesome image. For generations, we've been taught it's the healthy way to start the day. But if you're over 60, juice might be doing more harm than good. Here's the issue. Juice strips away the fiber. What's left is liquid sugar. It goes straight into your bloodstream. Fast. That means your insulin spikes. And when insulin spikes, especially in a system that's no longer as metabolically resilient, your energy plummets soon after. But beyond energy, there's something even more concerning: vascular stress. Research from both Harvard and Tufts has confirmed that regular fruit juice consumption increases the risk of type 2 diabetes in older adults, even in moderate amounts. Why? Because the body doesn't process liquid sugar the same way it processes whole food. There's no chewing, no delay. It floods the system, and that flood weakens your blood vessels, especially those farthest from your heart. Where does that damage show up first? Again, the legs. You might feel fine after the first glass, but give it time. The wear accumulates. Blood flow becomes inconsistent. Muscles feel underfed. You might experience shakiness, swelling, or a strange sense of imbalance that's hard to describe. It's not your imagination. It's the price of sugar without fiber. Now here's where it gets even trickier. Most people drink juice when they're already tired. They reach for that glass of orange or grape juice, hoping for a lift. And yes, it lifts for a moment. But that's the trap, because once the sugar burns off, what's left is a crash, a deeper fatigue. And over time, the body begins to expect those highs and lows. The muscles become less resilient. The legs lose their bounce. Dr. Hinohara often reminds us, in Japanese tradition, we rarely drink fruit. We eat it slowly, in season, in small pieces. Digestion, he says, is not just about chemistry, it's about pace. And juice is too fast. It skips the steps. It overwhelms instead of nourishing. So if you're sipping juice every morning thinking it's helping your energy, I urge you to rethink. Try eating the whole fruit instead. Pair it with protein. Or better yet, skip the juice and hydrate with water, tea, or mineral broth, something that supports your blood vessels instead of stressing them. Because when we talk about strong legs, we're really talking about stable blood flow, muscles that get what they need when they need it. And juice, no matter how fresh, it does the opposite. So take a moment and ask yourself, are these sweet habits serving your body or stressing it? Are they fueling your vitality or quietly draining it? You deserve to know. And more importantly, you deserve to choose differently. We've talked about grapes, bananas, pineapple, watermelon, dried fruits, and juice. Each one with its own set of concerns, especially after 60. But now we come to the final fruit group that may surprise you, even more: canned fruit. And let me tell you, this one breaks my heart, because it's often given with the best intentions: canned peaches, fruit cocktail, pineapple chunks in syrup. These foods show up in senior homes, hospitals, and retirement communities all across the country. Why? Because they're soft, easy to chew, easy to swallow, no prep needed. They feel comforting, familiar. But what most people don't realize is that canned fruit is where nutrition often goes to sleep, and sugar wakes up loud. Here's what's really going on inside those little cans. The fruit may have started out natural, but the preservation process changes everything. Enzymes get stripped. Vitamins degrade. And to make the fruit shelf-stable and palatable, manufacturers often add syrup or fruit juice, concentrate, both of which are loaded with sugar, especially high-fructose corn syrup. Now, why does that matter? Because after 60, your blood vessels are not as forgiving. Your endothelial, lining the inner layer of your arteries, thinner, more vulnerable. And the sugar from canned fruit doesn't just raise your glucose levels. It causes sharp, repeated spikes that wear down those blood vessels over time. Even worse, canned fruit is often eaten when people are least active, maybe as part of a soft lunch, maybe as a dessert before an afternoon nap. So the sugar hits, but there's no movement to help process it, no muscle activity to help absorb it. The result? A crash in energy, a dip in mood, and damage to the very blood vessels that keep your legs alive and moving. Now think about this in the context of someone already dealing with circulation issues, maybe some varicose veins, maybe a little swelling in the feet. Add in a daily dose of syrupy canned fruit, and what you get is accelerated vascular decline. One study in the Journal of Gerontology found that a high intake of processed fruit products was associated with reduced walking speed and higher levels of C-reactive protein, a marker of systemic inflammation. In simple terms, more sugar means more inflammation. More inflammation means slower legs. Slower legs mean less confidence, less movement, and sadly, more falls. That's not what we want for anyone in their golden years. And yet, because canned fruit feels like gentle food, it often escapes scrutiny. People think, well, it's not candy, it's not cookies, it's fruit. But the form matters. The processing matters. And when the fruit is floating in syrup or has been sitting in a metal can for months, it behaves more like dessert than nourishment. I've seen this play out in care homes across the country. Well-meaning staff offering cups of fruit cocktail with every meal. Seniors eating it because it's soft, familiar, and sweet. But they don't realize that behind that sweetness is a metabolic roller coaster their bodies are no longer built to ride. Dr. Hinohara said it best. If you want to preserve strength after 60, fruit must be eaten with intention. Whole, fresh, paired with something grounding. Not floating in syrup, not softened by industry. That line stayed with me. Because it's not just about the fruit, it's about the relationship we have with food. Are we eating to soothe, or are we eating to sustain? Now, I'm not saying you have to throw out every can in your pantry. But I am saying, read the label. Look for fruit packed in water, not syrup. If it's canned, rinse it. Better yet, opt for frozen fruit, or small portions of fresh when possible. And always, always pair sweet fruit with something that slows digestion: a handful of nuts, some Greek yogurt, a slice of cheese, something to buffer the sugar and protect your blood vessels. Because strength does not come from sweetness. It comes from balance, from awareness, from knowing that even the gentlest looking foods can work against you if you're not paying attention. So ask yourself, is this fruit nourishing me or just comforting me? And if it's only giving comfort, maybe it's time to find that comfort elsewhere through connection, movement, purpose, not just syrup. So now we've come full circle. We started with a simple question: why do the legs feel weaker after 60? And we ended up uncovering something far deeper: how the fruits we once trusted may be quietly draining the very strength we need to stay free, balanced, and independent. Let's take a moment to reflect. We talked about grab small, but deceptively high in fructose, disrupting blood flow and tricking us with sweetness that doesn't satisfy. We looked at bananas, gentle on the surface, but sugar heavy and risky when eaten alone, especially on an empty stomach. We examined pineapple and watermelon, tropical and refreshing, yet either too acidic or too glycemically volatile, leading to swelling, cramping, and hidden exhaustion. Then we peeled back the truth on dried fruit and juice-dense sugar bombs that overload the bloodstream and rob the muscles of resilience. And finally, we opened the can literal on canned fruit. Easy to chew, easy to serve, but often soaked in syrup that your aging blood vessels simply can't handle anymore. Each of these fruits on their own may seem harmless, but after 60, your body speaks a different language. It doesn't just crave sweetness, it craves stability. Not just hydration, but nutrient-rich repair. Not just easy chewing, but circulatory support. And here's the most important part. This isn't about fear. It's about awareness. It's not about cutting out fruit. It's about choosing fruit with intention. If you want your legs to carry you longer, if you want to stand up from a chair without hesitation, if you want to walk to the mailbox, the market, or the grandkids' soccer game without the nagging feeling of fatigue, it starts with how you nourish those legs. What goes in shapes what holds you up. So how do we move forward from here? First, don't let habit or marketing choose your meals for you. Just because something is labeled natural doesn't mean it's right for your body right now. Second, always pair your fruit. Never eat sugar solo. Add protein, add fat, add fiber. Make it a meal, not a spike. Third, observe your body. Pay attention to how you feel after you eat, not just in your stomach, but in your legs. Are they energized? Or are they heavy? Are they restless at night? Or stable and strong? Fourth, shift your choices. Swap syrupy fruit for fresh or frozen. Choose low fructose fruits like berries or kiwis. Use citrus zest instead of juice. And most of all, enjoy your fruit in the context of balance, not as a shortcut to eating light. Because the truth is this: The fruit you choose today is the strength you carry tomorrow. Aging doesn't mean giving up. It means adapting, evolving, learning the new rules of your body. And now that you know what to look for, you're no longer in the dark. You've got the insight, the tools, and the power to take better care of the one thing that never stops carrying you your legs. Dr. Hinohara once said, "The body speaks quietly. We must learn to listen." And that's what I hope this conversation has done, helped you listen more deeply to the signs your body has been whispering all along. So as we wrap up this episode, I want to leave you with a gentle challenge. Take one small step this week. Maybe it's replacing the morning juice with a full breakfast. Maybe it's reading the label on a can of fruit before putting it in the cart. Maybe it's asking yourself after a snack, "Do I feel stronger or just sweetened?" And if this message resonated with you, if you found yourself nodding or thinking of someone you love, please share it. Send it to a friend. Post it in your community. Leave a comment and tell us what surprised you most. Because this isn't just about fruit. It's about staying strong, staying upright, and staying independent. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening not just to me, but to yourself. And I'll see you in the next episode of the Senior Health Podcast. Until then, walk tall, eat wisely, and never stop learning how to care for the body that carries your life.